Nope, don't need that again. Bit slow on the trigger finger. I was too slow doing it the first time, and then I went for a second bite, but that's not needed. But I should say welcome to East Game, where we give you the X's, the O's, and the insights of NBL1 East. Thank you for joining us tonight on YouTube and Instagram, watching this live as it happens, including the mistakes that we've already made. Remember, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Eastcock Game, or you can continue to find our episodes on your preferred streaming platforms. On this week's episode, we'll be covering our Eastcock game of the week between the Illawarra Hawks and the Canberra Gunners in the men's competition, our top performances of the round, aka our good eggs, and we'll be doing a bit of a midway season recap with SJ from Love of the Game a little bit later. But let's make some introductions first of all. Obviously, I'm Squin, as it says on screen. And with me, as always, is co-host Lockie France. Lockie, a lot to celebrate on the weekend.
Plenty to celebrate, Squin. Absolute tons of stuff to celebrate. Was it one of the... I mean, it's just been a couple of the biggest weeks we've had in NBL1 East. We had the Mother Load on Mother's Day, and then we had the big Sutherland Comets men's game.
Oh, huge, huge. And then some very surprising and entertaining results as well. It's so dramatic that it deserves a reality TV series of its own, you know, the Real Housewives of the NBL1 East.
I mean, sport is the ultimate reality show, and NBL1 East is chaos at its best.
Yes, so this is why we say don't sleep on the East, because it's always going to be surprising and entertaining. But before we get into our headlines of round 7, tell me what else there was to celebrate on the weekend, Lockie.
You're not going to make me bring it up again, are you? I'm not blowing my own trumpet.
Well, I'll blow it then. It was Lockie's 100th NBL1 game as a commentator. He was very lucky that the game that fell on his 100th was Sutherland versus the Sydney Comets. So the two clubs he currently commentates for at the Shark Tank, where it all started. Congratulations again, Lockie. And I was very, very chuffed to see that the Sutherland Sharks helped you celebrate in style by having a banner on their board there for everyone to see.
Yeah, we are. First of all, we had to get the big screen actually working. That was a start. It uses a lot of power supplies, so if one goes, it's very finicky. We got it working, and yes, that was a nice surprise from our producer Chris, who is the man who first asked me to commentate at Sutherland. So yes, it was very nice, and I had the pleasure of getting Sharks women's captain Liv Douglas on the call for the second half of the game as well. That was very cool.
Yeah, and she put up a really nice post on her Instagram story celebrating a 100th game as well. I thought that was really, really nice of her.
That was really nice. She's captain for a reason.
Yeah.
One of the best humans and a true leader around the club.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that it was such a great weekend and such an entertaining game for you to commentate for your 100th game. I'm hoping that my long sleeve hoodie, Comets hoodie, isn't upsetting you too much given the result on the weekend. But also shout out to Sydney Comets for sending us these last year. It's finally cool enough in Brisbane for me to wear it.
I was going to say, it can't upset me too much. I have one in my wardrobe.
Yeah. Do you wear it to your games when you commentate at Alexandria?
Lately, I've been wearing my Waratah League hoodie when I've been commentating.
Very nice. Very niche. Very niche.
Yes.
But let's get into the headlines from the round. First of all, Lockie, can we just take a moment to look at this ladder in the men's competition? I mean, my God. This is the kind of perfect storm and worst nightmare / perfect storm as fans and spectators.
Yeah, so COE leading at 9-1, and then 2nd through 5th are separated by nothing because they're all 6-3, and they've just about all beaten each other or lost to each other or the split is completely indecipherable at this point. And then, so that's Canberra, Sutherland, Comets, and Illawarra. And then Maitland and Manly are tied for 6, but we know who got the split there. Or they're fair way to the split, Manly. So, but then Bankstown are 5 and 5, just behind them. And Hills, Central Coast, and North are 4 and 5.
Yeah.
You're one bad double header away from dropping, or one good double header away from moving 4 or 5 spots on the table. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Yeah. Centre of excellence on this winning streak, but they come up against the Sydney Comets next round. So that's going to be a really big test for both teams. Gunner's still hanging in there at second, like you said, and they've got Albury next round. Sutherland have Hornsby. Illawarra have Hills. Maitland versus Penrith. Now, Penrith are really hitting their strides in the last couple of rounds with Jonah Pares getting player of the week with 21 and 19 against Inner West Bulls. So this could be really, really interesting, this matchup, in terms of how people might fall depending on the results.
Yeah, Maitland, 3 losses in their last 5 games, and Penrith, even when they were winning 1 or 0 or 2 games a season, or however many it was, they were running teams close all the time. And this year they're actually picking up a couple of wins, 3 so far. So, real interesting one. The other interesting one to me is Inner West Norths. Both teams that need to, Inner West, we'll get to them shortly, but North as well. It's one of those games where, they're both just on the outside looking in.
Yeah, it's and we're just about kind of midway through the competition because there's 15 rounds. We've just finished round 7, so we're kind of on the cusp of either, halfway point. It's kind of a little bit now or never. The season's gone really quickly. You can't afford to spend too much time getting comfortable and working teams out because you've just got to get in there and do what it takes to get wins.
Exactly. I mean, if you get to 4 and 7 or 4 and 8, suddenly you've only got room for 1 or 2 more losses throughout the back end of the season where, that's when players, injuries start coming into play as the season drags on, or things happen, or, your star kid ends up going off to college early or something like that. Who knows what could happen?
And there's some clubs, especially here in North, so I'm expecting the same in East, where some college kids are still graduating and making their way home and will come back and play NBL1. So the roster changes are going to continue throughout, I guess, until the last few rounds or whenever the cutoff is by the time players need to qualify.
Oh, you need to be able to play, I think is it 40% of the season? So if you haven't played a game by the time your team's played 12, then I don't think you can play. You can't fly in if you literally are unable to qualify. As long as you played a game by then, you're fine, even if you miss one later on and can't qualify. But you have to be able to, when you play your first game, you have to be able to play. You have to be able to qualify.
Yeah,
so obviously that date is coming up pretty quick. Some teams have played 10 games already.
Yeah.
No, it's not really a problem in North yet because you've only played 3 or 4 out of 14 games. But yeah, like Bankstown have already played 10 games. So have Penrith. So have COE. I guess COE probably don't have that issue. All their players are going to college, not coming back from college. But for Bankstown and Penrith, if any of their guys are yet to come back,
I think Bankstown have enough. They got enough guys. They got enough bodies. They don't need any more.
No.
And I will just circle back. You mentioned the split between Manly, Warringah, and Maitland. They actually do play each other again in round 11.
That's coming up quick.
2 weeks so that's away, really close turnaround.
Well, I think, the women had a big win, so it'd be tough for Maitland to overturn that. But I think, was it a 13-point win Manly had over Maitland? Maitland could easily overturn that in the return fixture. So that is definitely not decided.
No, not at all. Not at all. And you've got some other headlines to share with us from the men's competition. Take us through it.
Well, I think the first one is the Inner West Bulls. And Squin, I have to ask, is it time for our viewers to crack each other's heads open and feast on the goo inside?
in the most reference way possible. We're not inciting violence, but yes. What is going on with the Inner West Bulls?
5 losses on the trot and 3-6. And I did note down a few stats in that their defensive rating is second bottom in the league. And their defensive rebound percentage, 61.4%, bottom of the league. So they give up O boards on nearly 40% of opportunities. But they don't offset that by getting their own offensive rebounds because they're second last in the league for that as well. And their opponents they hold their opponents to a low shooting percentage from 3-point range, but they allow 49 points in the paint per game. So teams aren't shooting the 3-ball well against them, but they're allowing the opposition to get in the paint. And
then contest any kind of rebounds that are coming from those poor shooting 3-point percentages as well.
Yeah.
It's weird. So they're kind of doing bits, but they're not doing the bits in between the bits to put everything together.
And that's the thing. A lot of their other stats are really good. They don't turn the ball over. They're good assist rate. They're second for turnovers, third for steals, ninth for blocks. So they, get a few blocks here and there. Their offensive rating is third in the league, but their defensive rating is a higher number. So they're coughing up more, obviously at 3-6, they're coughing up more points than they're scoring. Is it a case of they're just trying to outscore the opposition? You score 100, we'll score 105.
Yeah, that's what you're only really kind of literally playing only half the game then. I mean, it's obviously the offensive side, the defensive side. If you're only going to take care of one side, that's always not going to be a guarantee. You're not going to guarantee that you're going to shoot a high percentage every game. The least you could do is stop the other team from scoring. The maths makes sense.
Yeah.
The maths is mathing.
The math is mathing.
The math is mathing. Let's put it that way. And yeah, like you said, so yeah, round 7, they lost to Penrith away 86-71. And next round they have the North Bears and Newcastle Falcons in the one weekend, a doubleheader at home.
That is huge for all 3 teams because they're all teams that need to jump each other to get back in the race or stay in the race.
Yeah, because we can't count out Newcastle either. They are 12th with 3-6. Hold on, it says. Oh yeah, but they have claimed a few big scalps already this season.
Illawarra, Canberra, Maitland. That's pretty good.
That's damn good. So they just got to apply that winning formula to these games next weekend against North and Newcastle. Sorry, against Inner West Bulls and Bankstown. I think they have a double away.
They do
next weekend, Newcastle. So they just got to apply the same formula. They're going to look like they're in a much better position.
Yeah, so it's just as long as they are the team that has 3 and don't turn up as the team that has 6.
Yeah. If you were part of the Inner West Bulls coaching staff, what would be the 2 things you would want them to prioritize to improve their performance?
I would say defensive rebounding, because their shooting percentages are good enough that if they get more looks than the opposition, they're probably going to win every time. If you keep coughing up O boards and giving teams second chance opportunities. And I guess defensive rebounding and forcing the opposition out of the paint. I mean, their second chance points aren't horrible. They are in the bottom half of the league. It's not horrible, but eventually that's going to come back to bite you.
No, those two make so much sense to me. The two probably the easiest to fix that are going to have maximum results. Defense, improving your defensive rebounding and continue to force teams to shoot from the 3-point line where they're obviously being able to guard that a lot more and teams are having a lower 3-point percentage against them. Done.
Yeah.
Easy fixes.
Like their own 3-point shooting is good enough. Like they split their shots almost 50-50, 2-pointers v 3-pointers, but their 3-point percentage is high enough that it's worth it for them. Because their effective field goal percentage is better from 3-point range than 2-point range. So what they're doing at the offensive end, shot selection wise, is correct.
Yeah. It's just those little bits in between we got to fix and you can have maximum results.
There we go.
There we go. It's easier said than done, though, I'm sure.
It is.
And what other news have you got for us from the men's competition?
Well, one that just popped up recently, and we'll talk a little bit about him later. Evan Wardlow, former Central Coast Crusader, has joined the Canberra Gunners. Averaged 11.5 points, 3.4 rebounds, 3.2 assists, and shot 36.5% from 3-point range for Crew last year. Only played 17 minutes in his first game for Canberra on the weekend in their narrow loss to Illawarra. 2 rebounds and assists, 0 of 5 from the field. So probably just feeling his way back in. Not sure he was playing much over the off season. But an addition for Canberra who have now lost 3 on the trot, I believe, which I said the other week, if they lose one of these 3 big games against, I think it was Illawarra, COE, and Sutherland they got coming up, that wouldn't be too bad. But they've already lost 1 to make themselves 6-3. So a little bit of pressure in that top 4 hunt. So hopefully Evan can provide a bit of spark for them.
Yes, and as we mentioned earlier, the Gunners game against Illawarra is our game of the week this week. So we'll take a deep dive into it a little bit later because there's plenty to chat about from that game. Plenty to chat about. And in the women's competition, some big news coming out of COE. Coach of the women's program, David Herbert, affectionately known as Herbie, who we had as a guest earlier this season on EGG, has announced that he has left his role at COE and he's going to take a role, I think, in Geelong. But let me read out the official Instagram post. It was posted 4 days ago, today being the 20th, so 16th of May. COE on their Instagram announced today, we farewell our women's program head coach, David Herbert. Herbie has been in this role for 3 years and has contributed to the Basketball Australia pathway for more than 30 years. Thanks to all the best for your new endeavors, coach. And I think I do have a little bit of intel here based on what he's planning to do. If I can find it. He says he just needs a bit of a reset and he's going back to sports in school in Geelong. So he's going to take a smaller role, but perhaps provide a little bit more work-life balance or focus on other things in his life. But yeah, he hasn't got a big grand plan for now. So it's not something traditionally people would expect where you go from a job like that to, the Opals coach or a WNBL team or WNBA team or something. He's just going to have a bit of a reset and see what comes up next. I'm sure he'll be flooded with offers.
Oh, 100%. I think, if he realizes he wants back in the game, there'll be no shortage of people willing to take him on.
No, absolutely not. So I don't think the COE have announced his replacement officially yet, but I know that Mel Downer has recently been appointed as assistant in the, last 6 months. But I wonder if it'll be a case of putting the job out there for anyone and everyone, an external application to apply for the role and see how they go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the rules are surrounding the job in the first place. They may have to advertise it, regardless of who they might want to instill.
Sorry, we just got a comment on Instagram Live to explain my bed sheets. I don't know what it's just an Indigenous print. I think I got them from like Adair's. I think that's
Emmett Adair's?
Emmett Adair's, yeah. No relation. No, yeah, I don't know what else don't know what else to say. I think it's kind of highlighting that it probably isn't the ideal background to have on a live stream. It's the back of my bedroom. But yeah, that's all I can really say. It's just an cool Indigenous print that I've got. It looks like you have a skinned zebra. Apologies. I can see that. I can see how you can pick that up. Yeah. You know what? I've got a voucher to spend, Lockie Everett. I'll go and purchase a block color sheet so it doesn't weird out your eyes next time or something.
My my quilt cover is clouds vomiting rainbows. So
oh wow.
that my friend drew, and I bought it to help fundraise her moving to Europe. I bought it from her Etsy store.
That's nice of you. Maybe I should get something even more colorful and outrageous just to annoy Lockie instead. But yeah, moving on. Also wanted to touch because on North and the Newcastle Falcons women again continuing their winning streak. Both teams are still undefeated, and they are 9-0. They are one of the few teams still in the NBL1 competition. I was hoping that they'd be the only two teams, but there's a handful of women's teams who are still undefeated, including two North teams in Mackay and the Southern District Spartans. But like we said, North's only just started. I don't think it really compares yet to 9-0. But they're in good company. I think Coburn Cougars from NBL1 West are also undefeated, as well as Geelong United in NBL1 South. I think there might be one more that I'm missing. But I think we were certainly anticipating North's women versus the COE in round 7 just to see where they would fall, and they had a dominant win. Like, they didn't just win, they won by like 14 points. So I thought that was really, really impressive.
Certainly was. And, the matchup, well, maybe not the matchup we all wanted to see, but the two big young guns that we all wanted to see. Ruby Perkins went 6 of 7 from the field, scoring 17 in 22 minutes. And Taya Fagan had 23 and 16. So I think the marketing budget was put to good use there, picking those two to our highlight.
Yeah, especially I wonder if it was a little bit of a forecast in relation to another announcement that was made mentioning those two athletes too. That we can probably share. We can probably share later. We'll definitely share later in the headlines. But yeah, it was almost a bit of forecasting, I think, highlighting those two.
A little bit.
A little bit. Well, I mean, it's the Taya Fagan has just exploded back onto the scene. Like, she's had an incredible 12 months of development. I remember watching her this time last year, and she almost looked like Bambi, and now she's ruling the roost.
Certainly is.
Absolutely dominating.
I think we all saw what she could be last season. It was like once she grows into herself, she'll be outstanding. And she's still very young, but she's definitely found her way into her body. Looks like a different athlete this year.
And MVP contender from North, Carla Pittman, had another huge game with 25 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals. So flirting with that triple-double again. And from the COE, it was actually Zara Russell who top scored for their side. 30 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals.
That is a day out. I mean, She's been around the program for a while, and I think she's just I mean, they're very short-handed at the moment. They're down to 7, and I think that's even with a couple of ring-ins even. So I mean, they kind of need players like Russell and Fagan, or probably any player who's actually a fully fledged member of that COE squad to step up at this stage, because they are short on numbers.
Yeah, because you look at the box score and there's a lot of DNPs listed. But yeah, it's due to lots of injuries, I imagine.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, a lot of injuries.
Yeah, not ideal coming into a World Cup campaign either, but we'll circle back to that in a second, because you have some more news for us from the women's competition as well.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Davida Dale injured late in the season over in the UK, not available for Bankstown. So they've signed Julianne Redmond, who had 37 points and 14 assists across her first 2 games. So she went to college at Illinois State in the Missouri Valley Conference. She's got actually Euro Cup experience with probably the best known of the Belgian clubs, Castors Brain, which I think they're generally in and around European competition. Fun fact, once played a first-round NCAA tournament game against Caitlin Clark at Iowa. They lost 98-58 at Carver Hawkeye Arena in Iowa City, but Caitlin Clark had 27 in that game. Redmond had 25, taking on a Caitlin Clark Iowa team. So that in and of itself is pedigree.
Oh yeah, scoring pretty much half of your team's points against a team like that, I'd be bragging about that too.
Oh yeah.
And some other big stat lines to mention from round 7 in the women's competition. Riley Lupfer from the Albury Wodonga Bandits had 41 points, 9 rebounds against the Central Coast Crusaders, shooting at 73.68% overall, including 12 from 16 threes. Question mark, is that the most in the NBL1 East ever? Because as we know, that does tie the WNBL record of 12 made in a game. So you would think that's the NBL1 East record.
It would have to be close. I'm just trying to think, like, is there like a game where someone like Shyla Heel, when she had one of those massive outings, did she ever put up 12 threes in a game? Because like at a certain point, you're struggling to think of like how many games have we had where people have even scored 36 points, which you need to get to have 12 threes in the first place. So it would have to be right. If it's not the record, it's very, very close. I think we can rule out LJ having done it in any of her 50 pieces, because otherwise Sammy Mack would have known.
Yeah, that's right. He would have known off the top of his head for sure.
Yeah.
And Jessie May Hall also had another big weekend against a very talented Newcastle side. She had 21 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 7 steals. So really tempting us with that quadruple double. The first one, that would be the first one in NBL1 East, if not NBL1. And there's that really, really great clip that NBL1 has posted on their socials of how she's beaten all 5 defenders from one end of the court to the other to score.
She's I think it just needs to all come together. They just need to, there's going to be a day when she gets the points, rebounds, steals, and it's just going to come down to teammates putting the ball in the basket often enough to get her the 10 assists. That's the one thing you really can't do without your teammates if you're going for the quad double, is the assists.
That's right.
A rebound, you probably need some help with some boxing out, but a steal you can do all by yourself. Scoring, obviously team play, but at the end of the day, it comes down to you putting the ball in the basket.
And Lockie Everett did mention that Munger and Heel have both had 50-plus games. Yes, correct. But the question that we're looking for the answer for is whether 12 three-pointers is the record for NBL1 East. We know that 41 points isn't, but we have a suspicion that 12 3-pointers in one game would be the record.
Mm.
And we also have a question on Instagram Live. Is Kira Hudson done for the season with signing to a college team? I'm guessing no. I'm guessing because college is normally, the May to August kind of bracket of starting in August, finishing in May. I'm guessing she's going to finish out the rest of the season and probably head over to college in August to start. Is that what you take from that as well, Lockie?
That's what I mean. She's not precluded from playing. If you're asking whether she has to shut it down because she signed, no. I mean, she could choose to, but she doesn't have to because she signed.
Yeah, I think there was because NBL1 would be, I think it depends on the college sometimes. I know that there was some young WNBL players like Ruby Vlahoff comes to mind when she was a DP for the Perth Lynx. She could only play the WNBL season or suit up for a certain amount of games until it was counted as fully professional, and she had to be under a certain contract to qualify to go play for St. Mary's. But I don't think with NBL1 East and perhaps the college that Kira is going to.
Oh, no, she's going to D1. She's going to New Mexico State. So that's
good. Oh, yeah, cool.
But it's NBL1 and WNBL. It's two. Yeah. At the end of the day, it wouldn't prevent her from playing. Otherwise, half the COE would have to toss it in halfway through the season.
And Lockie Everett on Instagram Live brings up a good point that Austin Rapp from NBL1 South, who played for the Knox Raiders last year, he went pretty much literally straight from nationals to college, like within like days. I think he came to nationals, won a chip, and then I think he was gone within like days.
Yeah.
Then he went to Portland, had a great season, and now he's going to Wisconsin.
Certainly is.
And then the last little bit of news is that in the last week or so, the Emus and the Sapphires, pretty sure it's the Gems. Apologies.
The Gems. The Sapphires camp got announced, but the Gems World Cup team got announced.
Yes, the Gems World Cup team and the Emus World Cup team have been announced. So this is the under-19 World Cup team. They're both going to be playing. The men's is first in June and the women's is second in July. Both teams being announced, both teams showcasing a lot of familiar names, particularly those who are currently in the COE program or have been before. So in the Emus, we've got Emmett Adair, Shay Brogan, Dash Daniels, Alex Dickerson, Luke Fennell, Jacob Furphy, Madin Kawane, Ajak Nyon, Roman Sualipa, which I was a bit surprised about, Nash Walker, Jack Whitbourne, and Rocco Zakarski. Thoughts, feelings, comments on that roster, Lockie?
10 of those guys have played in the East.
Yeah, correct. And some of them are still, a big chunk of them are still here.
And one of them dropped 34 on the weekend, Jacob Furphy.
Yeah. All of that time with the Boomers must have been helpful.
Yeah.
Emmett Adair is the deepest from the East, being a kid from North.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's not just in East because he's from COE. He's actually, New South Wales.
And the under-19 women's Gems team. Now, these age groups that will be eligible for this team is outstanding. And even with the roster that they're taking, there are a couple of omissions due to injury. So Saffron Shields and Lara Somfai, who were the two most dominant players of this squad at Asia Cup last year, unfortunately unable to be there. And also Jessie May Hall chose not to be part of the squad as well. So unfortunately she's not going to be there. But this roster they're taking is outstanding. So it's people like Monique Bobongi, Amelia Dakic, Bonnie Dees, Sataya Fagan, Sienna Harvey, Callie Hinder, Briseis Natoa, Ruby Perkins, Manuela Poch, Zara Russell, Madison Ryan, and Monique Williams. It's really scary. And so Above the Rim AU has also mentioned this on our Instagram live stream, that it is scary that someone like Bonnie Dees can still play under 19s, and the same with Babongi and Poch, who literally have WNBL experience, and they're going to an under 19s World Cup.
Yep. You know me, I'm all for Monique Babongi and Bonnie Diaz content.
Yeah, so still super talented. I think Madison Russell maybe bottom age, and I can't remember if Ruby Perkins is technically bottom age or the right age group, but yeah, it's super talented group. I honestly didn't know a lot about Callie Hinder until Sammy Mack from Albury wrote to me on Instagram and said how he's happy that she's included. Of course, Hinder being Russell Hinder's daughter.
Yes.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together, and I've still got to get used to that we're of the age now.
where our players that we watch children are in the league.
Exactly. We're of that age where I'm like, this was my favorite player when I watched NBL in the 90s. Great, now I get to watch their child. Like it's I don't know how to describe the feeling of that, but it's very jarring. It's very jarring. Yeah, so yeah, that's the teams going away. I don't have the dates off the top of my head at the moment, but it is definitely the men's definitely the end of June, and the women are definitely the start of July. But yeah, so good times. Have we missed any headlines before we get into our game of the week?
Well, someone asked about Kira Hudson, which I forgot to write down. So no, I haven't missed anything because someone brought it up.
We do have one more question on Instagram Live. Any news on Rentoy with Albury? No official news out of the Bandits camp just yet about that situation. So might just have to keep an eye on their socials. But yeah, nothing confirmed. Yeah, can't really say what the situation is there. I guess we'll just have to keep an eye on rosters and things in upcoming weeks, and perhaps if there's any other announcements on Jasper's official Instagram and social media channels as well, if there's nothing on Bandits. That's all I can suggest, really.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But yeah, we ready to get into the game of the week?
Very ready.
Very ready. Excellent. Okay, so yes, game of the week for round 7 was the Illawarra Hawks and the Canberra Gunners, held at the Snake Pit. Lockie, you said you're very ready. Start us off.
I love a game where someone gets a foul and a tech on the first defensive possession. And it kind of set the tone a little bit.
It did, actually. It did. I agree. It did.
Might have been maybe not the tech part, but maybe a bit of a ploy to try and from Illawarra to get into Canberra's head a little bit.
I did write down a very similar thing. I was like, is this Anstey in the NBA kind of tactics where, hey, part of your role today is to push around the Brindabella Beacon and get in his head with physicality because you can match him for size and length. I also wondered if that was part of the tactics, but then I do have feelings around that, but we can circle back to said tactics a bit later.
Yes. If you didn't watch the game, Toby Campbell fouled Glenn Morrison on the first possession and then threw the ball at him when he was on the ground.
Yeah, when you get a foul and a tech in the opening possession, you're going to have a bad time.
What? Yeah, okay.
I mean, yeah. Our life in memes, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah.
But please continue.
Okay, so when it wasn't Campbell roughing up Morrison, I thought Christian Moran did an excellent job on Glenn Morrison all night long, anytime he was on him. They went to Glenn in that left block spot that he loves to get in, had Moran on him. And I only wish that Illawarra had trusted CJ every single time to go one-on-one, because Glenn's good enough to pass out of a double, or recognize the double and get rid of the ball before it even gets there, while the guy's still abandoning his assignment. And it happened. First time it happened, Ballinger went to help, and I honestly can't remember. Oh, Byatt was there on the opposite side, and Glenn went, "Here you go, mate." And Angus Byatt had the easiest basket of his life, while CJ had Glenn not going anywhere. So I thought CJ was really good on him all night. When the offenses were flowing, they were flowing. But it didn't always take a lot for them to stop, for them to get into a one-out shot or just something stagnant or someone dribbling the air out of the ball. Yeah.
Is that for
like,
Hawks or Gunners or both?
I think it was a little bit for both, but probably the Hawks offense was, especially in the first quarter, looked so good when it looked good that when it looked bad, it was made to look even worse. There were some one-out threes. I think even Todd Blanchfield took a couple in the first quarter that were just like, Todd, you don't need to try and cook some guy with a dribble move and then just shoot over him. Although he can and did do it, and successfully on a couple of occasions. But sometimes the ball movement from the Hawks was so good that it made you wonder why it only took the first defender stopping things for them to just be like, oh, well, okay, we're not going to get a really good possession out of this. Let's just shoot.
Did I tell you my Todd Blanchfield story for when I watched the Opals and Boomers in the Sunshine Coast last week?
I think so. Was it when you were talking to the people in front of you?
Yeah. And they said, "Oh, it's really good that older guy can still run around with the younger fellas."
Yeah, he certainly can.
Who do you mean? I'm gonna guess you're talking about Todd Blanchfield. Like, yeah, that old guy. It's like, let's put some respect on Todd Blanchfield's name, please. Let's. But I agree. I think I agree with what your take on the Hawks offense in the first quarter. I noticed that they were settling way too much for that outside shot, whether it was open or when it wasn't. I think there was a lot of just, I don't know. I don't know what was the thought behind it, but it wasn't working. So when they called that timeout early in the first, I noticed a distinct change in their offense straight after the timeout, and they started to become much more productive.
They couldn't have been less productive. It was 8-0 when they called the timeout.
Yeah. And then there was classic Canberra at the other end, just doing what Canberra does, sticking to their rules for that part of the game anyway. And I know exactly the play you mean when Ballinger went to help on Morrison, and Morrison had that easy dump inside to buy it. Ballinger didn't need to help, A, because Moran had Morrison covered, but B, he helped up instead of across.
Yeah. And
so as soon as you help up and you don't know what's behind you, if anyone's covering behind you, that's, you're giving away points for free, easy.
Yeah.
I noticed the same things that you did for the first quarter, and I'm glad that Hawks were able to change it up, because otherwise, I was starting to get worried.
Me too. So I saw 8. It was 8-0, and it could have been a little bit worse. I mean, the first quarter they actually shot 50% from 3-point range in the end, and Canberra shot 40%. Both teams were splashing threes early.
I would have liked a few more threes for the shot doctor, James Toohey, this game. But it was just one of those games where his opportunities just didn't come to him enough. Like, I don't know if it was just circumstance or plays weren't run for him, or people were shooting too early in their offense or something. But I would have liked some more threes for him.
Yeah. Although it didn't, I mean, Will Mayfield was wetting them for fun early. So maybe with him as the hot hand, he ended up shooting more. He had more 3-point attempts than Toohey did in the end, but it was very front heavy in the makes. I think he made 3 of his first 4 or something, and then didn't make another one for the entire evening.
And having said that, actually, Tui is recorded here shooting 8 threes, so it didn't feel like 8 threes.
No, it didn't really.
Yeah, which is weird because I definitely remember a lot more of Will Mayfield's threes. And to be fair, a lot of them, like a lot of great open shots from both teams taken, but I also feel like both teams and even some of the 3-pointers taken from both teams, a lot of forced shots going up. It was almost kind of like a bit more of an ego battle on like who can make the better contested three than the other.
Yeah, it felt like it almost felt like they were in each other's heads. Like, you know, I have to outdo these people rather than just we're here to get the win, and that is outdoing them.
Yeah. Certainly had that edge to it.
Mm.
Also, did you notice that the commentators referred to Illawarra as the capital of basketball in New South Wales?
Well then.
Shots fired.
A penny for Newcastle's thoughts.
Yeah,
Biggest association.
The biggest association, 100%. You know, shots fired there. That's a very bold claim. I do like that added flavor of hometown bias, though. That I thought that was a nice little sprinkle there in the commentary.
It was good, but to be fair, that was the hometown bias. But to be fair, they were fairly even-handed when it came to foul calls. They didn't, especially that step-up screen by Moran that got called for an offensive foul. They called that one out as a good call. So, yes, they might have called Illawarra the home of the capital of basketball, but reasonably even-handed outside of that.
Yeah, speaking of the foul count, like you already touched at the start, this was a physical game. It got very chippy. Like I was waiting for someone just to completely boil over and start a fight or something, because it was really chippy. It was very tense. But the foul count was only 14-15. So yeah, very evenly called.
They let them play. They did let them. The rest did let them play.
I think there was I think we'll get into it when we cover some of the later quarters, but there were a couple of calls at the end of the game that I think were big impacts on how the momentum of the game played out.
Yeah. The whistle definitely came out a bit more in the latter stages of the contest.
Yeah. It was definitely one of those games, especially with that the two opening fouls from Toby Campbell, where it's like, all right, do we let them play or do we lock this down now and call absolutely everything?
Yeah, and I think once, I mean, they had to sub Campbell off immediately because of the two fouls. And when it was Moran or even Blanchfield or Morrison and they were just playing straight up defense, it kind of settled back a little bit.
But yeah, I think like the first quarter really felt like Canberra came out with their game plan and stuck to it very well. The Hawks in the first quarter had to make some really quick adjustments to get them back in the game, but they did that quite well. But then both teams were really just still feeling each other out a little bit, like still trying to test the waters by the time it got to second quarter.
Yeah, I mean, at 24-23 after a quarter. The second quarter, I mean, by the end, I was wondering where the first quarter Hawks had gone. Or maybe not the latter stage first quarter Hawks, because Canberra really started to put it together. That was when Mayfield absolutely went off. I think that was when he had those 2-3. I think he had 8 points in the space of about a minute, maybe a minute and a half early in the quarter, and set Canberra on their way. To be fair to Toby Campbell, came back in for the start of the second quarter and immediately had 2 O boards and a couple of baskets. So did some good stuff. I mean, he had 5 fouls in 11 minutes, but he also had 10 points in 11 minutes and 7 rebounds. So.
Oh, look, imagine if he was just able to stay on the court. If he had those stats in such a short period of time. So, He played for 10 minutes and 34 seconds. He had 10 points, 7 rebounds, an assist, and a steal. He shot 5 from 8. Imagine if he was able to stay on the court a lot longer.
Yeah.
Not only producing those numbers, but also being that physical inside presence to challenge Morrison.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we definitely saw what he can do and what we would have hoped to see him do more of.
Yeah, and hopefully, like, the fouls that he was called for, I'm all for, like, playing physical, playing aggressive within the rules, understanding that when you're someone that has to defend someone like a Morrison, you got to find a different way to put him off his game or something like that. So I'm all for, I understand those kind of mind games, but to be perfectly honest, some of the fouls called against Campbell, particularly when Morrison was involved, went way too far. It read to me like there was a little bit more spice in it, like a little bit of almost malicious intent in it, particularly when he started to carry on once the whistle was blown. There was lots of shoves in the back, elbows thrown, words, those types of things after the whistle was blown. And for me, too far. No place for that NBL1 East. I think it's borderline gross behavior, and I don't support that kind of thing. I'm all for, like, trying to get in someone's head within the rules, within still the spirit of the game, so to speak. But when it's going to start to get borderline malicious, and it read to me like they were going to be ready for someone in the car park after the game. No place for that. No place for that. That's what it actually made me really angry watching this game, seeing that behavior carry on, because that to me is automatic. 2 texts, out you go. That's probably the harshest I've ever been on this podcast, but I really didn't like it. Really didn't like it. No place for it in the East.
Yeah.
Hot take. Yeah.
But back to the rest of the game. The rest of the basketball. There was times in the second, Illawarra went to a zone and got a steal on the very first possession that they had it. They did so. And it was probably the first time we really got to see Kobe McDowell-White open up the throttle in the full court, like getting the ball either from a rebound or a short outlet and just getting downhill. The first time he did it, he got an M1, got to the rack, got an M1. And just... I don't know if I've definitely mentioned it to you before, but I definitely love watching Kobe McDowell-White get downhill. And
yes,
I think Canberra recognized it really well. So even when he backed up a little bit in the half court, they made sure it wasn't going to happen. But when he got that opportunity, just flat chat, straight downhill, straight to the rack, and one opportunity. And that's something I really want to see more of if they can somehow conjure up the opportunities for him.
I did wonder when they added Dent how that dynamic was going to work, because I feel like both of them, I definitely see Kobe McDowell-White more as a 1 and Dent as a 2. Like, that's how I would kind of play it, because Dent can be really explosive on the fly, transition threes, taking it to the rack, making decisions. Obviously, Kobe can do the same. But I did kind of wonder how they were going to play together. I was hoping it would be kind of a switching of a role where it was like whoever got to the ball first was automatically 1 and the other would be a 2. But I'm hoping that they're able to kind of share the load a little bit more, because I feel like Lockie Dent took on a lot of the load this game, but I'm hoping they're able to share, because then ultimately as a team, they're going to be even harder to guard if you're going to have both of them kind of like there's both of their strengths used and celebrated.
And I think that's something we mentioned in last week's women's game, where depending on who brings the ball up, there's different rules for the offense, or, you run this half of your playbook or the other half of the playbook, depending on who's bringing it up, kind of thing, and play to the strengths of the player who's off the ball in each situation.
But yeah, I feel like things started to go. Actually, I know that. Oh, I think maybe that was third quarter. Was Ballinger's layup in the third quarter off a McDowell White steal? That really shifted the momentum a lot. I think particularly, I think it was third quarter, but there were signs of it in the second quarter, but mostly third and a bit in the fourth for the Gunners. They started to fall away from their offensive plan and their rules, I think. So we saw at the start, very team orientated. Everyone's very well organized. A lot more ball movement. And then I felt like there was a sense of panic setting in where they started to rely too much on one-on-one opportunities off the dribble. There were a couple of possessions as well in the second half where I feel like the Gunners were like doing some kind of dribble drive or lots of dribble penetration and kick, but no one was actually looking to score. And the times when they fell into that, they really fell in a bit of strife there.
I think a little bit of that also stems from Illawarra did a good job of preventing Morrison from getting the ball really down low. And then they did a good job. I mean, Glenn Morrison, sometimes he's just going to charge straight through whatever you put in front of him. But I think they did a good job of kind of stifling him when he would get the ball maybe around the elbow, maybe even higher, and kind of turn and go, and they'd be there to try and stop him. And yeah, occasionally they gave away a foul. And I mean, this is the one game you can't roast teams for their free throw numbers because they were both exceptional at the line. But
yes, very, very good.
Illawarra made it tough on Glenn when he caught the ball up high and had to actually go to the rack and put it on the floor, which yes, he has shown repeatedly that he can do that, but we all know that both he and the Canberra offense in general would rather him get it in much closer quarters.
Yeah, I think as well that slight tweak from the Hawks defense is, letting Morrison play from the high post, but just taking a step off to challenge him to shoot it, because Morrison has really great handles, decent foot speed for someone of his size and his position, but really great footwork. Like I think in this game, if he needed a highlight package on just his footwork, he could probably get a lot of clips just from this game. His footwork was great. But just challenging him, shoot from that elbow extended, starts to cast a bit of doubt in his mind a little bit. And I think that was a nice adjustment from the Hawks.
You talk about his footwork. They are up and under the basket that he went. He split two defenders, went under the basket and reverse layup. Deary me.
Yeah. It was really, really good. It was great. Yeah. Really great.
Yeah. There were times though that it was the middle of the third quarter where at least 2, maybe 3 possessions in a row, just bad defensive decisions from the Gunners. There was one where I don't want to get I think it was Mayfield was just positioned all wrong, guarding Blanchfield. He was facing almost perpendicular to him back towards where the ball was. When it went to the opposite wing, he shifted his body to get in front of Blanchfield. Blanchfield, you just can't shift your weight back fast enough. And then on the very next play, Wardlow ran to the ball, left a trailing Ballinger to come straight through to the rack. And like everyone was like, where's the fifth Illawarra player? And it was Brad Ballinger just loping through and getting the ball because they both jumped to the player with the ball. Just a couple of decisions like that. And then straight after that, there was a pick and pop that eventuated from Mayfield, but the ball got back to him too slowly from Brooklyn Bruton. And it's just a few things in quick succession just didn't work for the Gunners. And that was when Illawarra took the lead, 49-48. It quickly got back to a tie game, but just that little couple of minutes just kind of gave Illawarra a sniff and an opportunity to get right back into it, take the lead. And even though it was tight, it always felt like the momentum was with Illawarra coming back from that 10-point deficit that they had early in the second quarter.
Yeah, I wrote really similar notes actually, and also made the point of that at that point in the third quarter. It was Ballinger's transition layup. McDowell White gets a steal and then a three. Yes. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
really, really good. I think that's really started to put the pieces together for the Hawks, and the timing of them getting their synchronicity and their chemistry right in this game was perfect because it was, halfway through the third. And so easy to carry that on into the fourth. I also felt like what was happening for the Gunners in the third offensively is that they had Bruton come on for a few more minutes, which we love to see. Bruton versus Bruton this game as well, which I wasn't aware of until we started watching. I just felt like sometimes the ball would slow down a little bit too much when it was in his hands at point guard. So it just seems like 4 were on one page of getting ball movement mostly through, just pass, cut, screen away, lots of that kind of traditional rules. But I felt sometimes when it got into Bruton's hands for the Gunners, it just slowed down a little bit too much and everyone was a little bit too out of place. And that's also when I wrote more shots for Tui, but he had 8, so maybe I'm just being too greedy. Yeah, but the Blanchfield 3 ball I think I put it at 6:51 in the third, really bailed them out of a very unproductive.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes.
Yeah. It was a very unproductive, very passive, and then he's just like, "Listen, I'm going to put an end to this." It just bombs away. That was very timely.
And that's what he can do, but you don't want him to have to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to rely on that too much. It is nice to have that definitely up your sleeve. But, to be fair, there's a bunch of them that could probably have that up their sleeve too. I was making some notes as well, and the different defensive rules that the Gunners started with as well. Did you notice that they were doubling Blanchfield a lot and then switching on others? But then it was very clear in the first quarter that that's what they were doing. And then as the game went on, I wasn't too sure if they were supposed to be sticking to that or if the game plan had changed on the defensive end for the Gunners, because then that's when I think as well sometimes there was a few miscommunications and a few easy layups and stuff like that in the back end. But, I mean, Mayfield had his job cut out for him this game, having to guard Blanchfield most of the time. And then trying to be the one of the main scorers too. So
and play all 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I do have to a wag of the finger, and the commentator brought this up. Well, one of the commentators is on my side. Anyway, low percentage 2-for-1s. We're cancelling them. Especially because Illawarra went down, tried to get a quick look. It was a low percentage look and missed. And then the second half was a low percentage look as well. It was a contested 3 with Kobe McDowell trying to shoot over someone bigger than him anyway. Just take your time on the first one, because you never know what's going to happen on the second one. You may as well get one good look than maybe have 2 bad looks.
Yeah, and the pressure is getting worse and worse on that second look.
What if they go and get the O board on their own miss, and then you don't even get your second look? Control the controllable and get one good look, and if it happens to be early in the shot clock, so be it. But we're cancelling low percentage 2-for-1s.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. That almost sounds like a policy.
Yes.
In the next NBL1 East elections, our policy is to cancel low percentage 2-for-1s.
Yes.
But yeah, going into the fourth quarter, Hawks really upped up their D in the fourth quarter. When they got that layup at 7 minutes and 4 seconds and it was 67 all.
The dunk.
Oh, was it a dunk? I wrote layup.
He sort of got it over the rim. I don't think his hand ever actually got near the rim, but Ballinger, the ball was in his hand over the rim.
Yes, because I wrote layup and I was like, I'm not sure if that was a dunk. So I'm glad you confirmed that it wasn't technically a dunk.
Yeah, I don't know.
So the 2 things that momentum shift here, I'll take a step back early in the fourth. At 8:58, the offensive foul on the Canberra Gunners, where I can't quite remember the player, but they were bringing the ball up for the Gunners. They were guarded by Young Bruton from the Hawks, and Young Bruton had gotten beaten in the backcourt and was trying to chase in the front court. And the ball carrier for the Gunners just tried to just shook them off and got called for that offensive foul.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that was when I started to feel like we've been letting them play all game.
Yeah.
Let the boys play.
Let the boys play, yeah. And I think that was a big momentum shift. It was 60-62 at that point. Gunners were up. Especially when there were so many arms waving and elbows extending the whole game, just like you said. And all of a sudden they were calling that, and I'm like, yeah. And that's it kind of started the favor back into the Hawks. So then the Hawks got that layup at 7 minutes and 4 seconds, and then tied up 67-67. And then it was just kind of the Hawks were rolling pretty much from that point on.
I mean, even before that, those Lockie Dent threes early in the fourth that he just created for himself. I think it was 3-3. It was Blanchfield after Moran stopped Morrison dead. Blanchfield came up in transition and hit one, and then Lockie Dent created a couple for himself. And I forgot about that. When Morrison blocked a shot and Todd Blanchfield got the O-board and the foul as well. So even before that Ballinger layup, everything was falling Illawarra's way. I mean, even yes, Lockie Dent was creating his own stuff, but Morrison blocks one and it ends up going to Blanchfield, who gets an and one.
Yeah.
Or at least 2 free throws. Yeah.
You're talking about controlling the controllables. They were doing that. And then they started to get the control over the uncontrollables as well. Yeah. So the luck was certainly falling on their side. But at the same time, respectfully for the Hawks, if they weren't hustling, if they weren't in the right spots, if they weren't hustling properly for those plays, then those plays don't come for you. So they were really locked in and focused and stepped it up a level in that fourth quarter to boil this game over into their favor. I just think defensively for the Hawks, they were a lot more energized. And they were, I'm not sure if it was they were communicating better or they just started to focus on being in better positions, but they were playing with a lot more desperation. They were double teaming Morrison under the basket beautifully without overhelping or fouling. And they were double teaming him in a way where it made his, really obstructed his view to try and get an easy outlet pass. So that was chewing up lots of clock time. And then I just feel like their rotations as well after that fact were a lot better in this half. And then focusing on just getting out and running. You got kids like Bradley Ballinger, who's so versatile. And then you've got Dent and McDowell White, who could throw a dime like it's nothing. Stops and run. Keep it simple with the talented roster that you have.
Pretty much. I mean, couldn't agree more. I mean, unfortunately for the game, that was when we got a real rush of fouls.
Yes, I noted the same thing.
It was like, is the battle getting to everyone more than the game kind of thing? That's I was
hoping someone was going to call a timeout because I think there was so many fouls in the fourth. I'm like, someone just needs to call a timeout and settle everyone down. But no one wants to burn a timeout to do that when it's such a close game.
Exactly. You need to keep those for late in the game. But I think someone needed to because the last few minutes, there was no scoring for 90 seconds after. I think it was 79-74 with 3 minutes to go. And there was, which is when Morrison picked up his fourth on that drive and kick foul, no. The one where Moran slid over.
Yeah.
And they kind of just tangled up and fell down into a heap. And I was like, maybe by the letter of the law, but it is.
But yeah, I noticed the same. The fouls really ramped up. That's why I said at the start, even though it was 14-15 Hawks to Gunners in the foul count for the game, but the timing was really important and impacted the game. So the funny thing is, though, Hawks were over the team fouls in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes 13 to play. And you're right, no one scored for a while. It was a 79-76 with a minute to go, Hawks' favor. And their last 6 points was free throws. So even though the Gunners had 4 minutes to play to kind of get themselves to the free throw line, it ended up being the Hawks winning the game at the free throw line in the end.
Yeah. I mean, there was that. Okay, the foul, Glenn Morrison with his hand over Kobe McDowell White's shoulder. That was a foul. When he pretty much, where Kobe was just trying to keep him out of the play, Glenn was like, get out of my way.
Yeah. I'm going to put an end to this. Just get out of my way.
Yeah, that was a foul. But and then the Will Mayfield bump on Lockie Dent. What was that?
I'm trying to think.
It was really late in the piece. So it was late enough that they didn't need to foul. They still didn't need to foul. But Hawks were in the bonus by then. And Mayfield just kind of bumped him. And I was like, what's this achieving?
Yeah. I think I might have. I don't think I picked up on that one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It was really late in the piece. And I don't know, maybe it was like, honestly, it could have been that the notorious NBL1 stream game clock was off by enough seconds that it was late enough to matter. Because I was wondering what it was when it happened. It was very late in the piece. It was called at 33 seconds, so maybe it was called at 33 seconds with the score at 81-78, according to the play-by-plays at 33 seconds. But it could have been later than that. So I'll give Will a pass on that one because I don't have a proper timestamp.
Yeah, I can't quite remember it either.
Yeah, it was really late, and maybe it was just going, but they were only down by 3. So yeah, it just seemed like it was a foul that wasn't going to do a whole lot. But
no.
It sent Lockie Dent to the line. But yeah, the Gunners didn't score for. They only scored 4 points in the last 3 minutes. And I mean, it was a 6-4 final 3 minutes. But yeah, the Gunners, didn't score, late on. And honestly, it felt a little bit like Illawarra in Canberra's heads.
Yeah, there was that kind of panic that I saw in the third kind of continued for the Gunners in the fourth. And I think the changing in the calls and the quick changing in momentum, and then Hawks' great defense, all of those kind of factors started to pile on and add to that panic as well. Because I noticed that the Gunners started to go back to that very much one-on-one style, like dribble, like a lot of offense based around dribble penetration or going one-on-one or something instead of moving the ball, setting good screens, getting open for each other, like the Gunners that we know and love. When they resorted back to that kind of panic of just dribbling the air out of it, then very unproductive, as we saw, like you said, only scoring 2 to 4 points in that last 5 minutes. But Illawarra, like we said, peaking at the right time. They won the third quarter 20-16, but they won the fourth quarter 31-8. And as the game continued, their 2-point shooting percentage actually got better in the second half. And their 3-point percentage was 40% in the first quarter and 40% in the fourth quarter. So they were able to really bring out something special. Now, whether that's due to better shot selections or everything just started to click with them by that stage.
I mean, yeah, they hit 3 of 3. They hit those 3 of 3 to start the fourth quarter, which set them on their way. So I mean, hitting them when you need them.
Yeah. It's not always going to happen like that, though. They're not always going to be able to turn it on and off like a tap.
No. But one last player I want to shout out, CJ Moran. More screens than JB Hi-Fi.
Yeah, that's why he's the reigning defensive player of the year at the Mackay Meteors. And I wonder if that's exactly why. I'm still pretty sure Joe Carlu, who coached the Mackay Meteors last year in NBL1 North and was assistant coach to the Hawks, I feel like he was involved in some of this recruiting, given how many great pieces came from the North. So
really?
But yeah, that was a great recruit. Really, really good recruit. Perhaps someone we may be sleeping on for potential defensive player of the year contender in NBL1 East for the men's competition. Yeah. It was nice to see some good screen set after the last men's game that we reviewed, where I was like, come on, guys. Timing, set your feet. But yeah, he's really, really good. He does a lot of things that aren't sometimes on the stat sheet. I also wanted to give a shout out to Angus Byatt from the Gunners. So the Gunners, you mentioned earlier, missing 3 key pieces. So Lockie Smith was out sick for this game, unfortunately. Cam Pender out early in the season due to injury. Not too sure when he's able to return. Who was the third person I'm missing that's an out? Because you said 3.
Did I? I didn't say 3.
Oh, I thought you said 3. But anyway, those 2 particularly. Their absence was certainly felt in this game. But Angus Byatt getting the opportunity to be in the starting 5, he did really well.
Yeah.
He was great defending one-on-one. Sometimes after a switch or in a transition situation, he had to switch on to Blanchfield. He did a great job containing him and not letting an easy dribble penetration. He had a great game. I think Coach Herrick said that he's only like 19 or 20. So hopefully another great local that the Gunners program can hold on to for a long time and have the next dynasty of the Morrison Mayfield Tui dynasty. Hopefully Byatt will be part of the next one.
Very much so.
Yeah. But you talk about, Brad Ballinger coming off the bench, 16 points, 3 rebounds, just the versatile guy that can do everything. Really like how he plays. Interesting that Matt Mims only saw his first minutes in the second quarter. But when you look at that loaded starting 5 from the Hawks, McDowell, White, Dent, Moran, Campbell, Blanchfield, I would be okay with sitting with being the
it means you can slot him in. Do you want him for Dent? Do you want him for McDowell, White? You got a few options. You want to run with the 3-guard lineup for a little bit. It gives them a little bit more flexibility. Not trying to shoehorn all 3 of those guys in there. And look, your import doesn't have to start just because they're an import. And 6-man is, I've heard it from people before. Sometimes it's good to have one of your best 5 players come off the bench. So if things don't work out at the start, you've just got that spark, that punch to come in there and go, righto, we're taking this over.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've definitely been in teams or coach teams where we've had that approach, and it just means you've got a better chance of having a high level of like continuity when by the time if your 6th or 7th players are just as good as your starting 5, just in terms of subbing and combinations and continuity, it can be really, really handy. But yeah, so overall it was a very tight game, very physical game. I think the game came down to momentum shifts and timing of particular events in this game. I think it also came down to how each team adapted to change. So Hawks adapting to change quite quickly and Gunners adapting to some change but not consistently enough. And it looked like they were getting a little bit panicked. Well, that's kind of my summary. What would your summary be?
I think that's probably fair enough. When it came down to it, Illawarra stuck with their principles better than Canberra did.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. And we know that Coach Herrick listens to the podcast. So, hopefully he knows we say everything with love. And that, it's all objective and we're just doing what we do, saying what we see. But yeah, I would love it if they were to play again, but I don't think they play each other again this season. I think they're one and done.
Oh, no.
I will. Let's just double check.
Hey, maybe in the finals.
Oh, we're going to have to wait till the finals. Oh, that's going to be like a long time brewing between the 2 teams. Oh, no, I stand mistaken. Round 12, Canberra Gunners, Illawarra. Again, at Tuggies State at Tuggeranong. Yes, let's go. Round 12. So that's a good break. So playing each other in round 7, then you've got 4 rounds until you meet again. That's a good amount of time for both teams to make those adjustments and extra scouting notes when they meet again. I'm hoping that Tuggeranong crowd as well can get behind the Gunners and they can get the split. Just to make the standings even more interesting than what they are now.
Very nice.
Purely for the math that I can't math, but I'm happy to admire. But yeah, so let's see if our guest is ready to jump on. Yes, they are. Look at them, patiently waiting in the wings. All right, so our very special guest this week, what we're going to do, it is round 7 is just concluded of NBL1 East. It's more or less halfway, given we've got 15 rounds this season before the final. So we thought we'll get another NBL1 East champion on to the podcast tonight to talk a little bit mid-season reports. It's none other than SJ from Love of the Game. Hello. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. It's freezing, so glad to see you guys on Ice Wall too. I was listening to you guys for a while. There's 2 things I want to point out real quickly.
Please.
Firstly, congratulations, 100 games, and hey, what a game too, man. Comments up against the Sharks, and
that was huge.
I was enjoying listening to the coverage too, man. So well done.
Oh, thank you.
And secondly, I want to be the defense attorney. I agree with the 2 for 1.
The low percentage 2 for 1. The low percentage,
yeah,
though, 2
35
for 1.
seconds, you back. If it's 30 seconds, you don't take it. But 35, you got to go for it. Let's go, boys.
What if it's even between 35 and 45? Because sometimes you can get a luxurious 2 for 1 when it's around that 45 seconds.
Yeah. If it's between 35 and 45, you should be able to get high percentage looks.
Agreed. But even 32 seconds, you let it slide.
Love that extra context, SJ. Thank you so much for joining us. It was very last minute, but thank you for making time and also being patient, because we did run overtime with our yapping in the headlines today. The time just escapes us because, we love to yap. We love a yap. But yeah, appreciate you jumping on to talk about the halfway report for the East.
Yeah, it's been good. Honestly, the East has been amazing this season. I love listening to you guys yap, because you actually learn a lot about the games, the in and outs. Because bro, look, not everyone's going to watch the full replays of the games that you guys are covering. So yeah, it's great information, and I love it.
Oh, thank you kindly. It's a 90-minute replay that probably takes sometimes at least 2 hours, because we're always rewinding something and rewatching and rewinding something and rewatching. I certainly did that with that COE Hornsby men's game a couple of rounds ago, because that was just too quick for my eyes to comprehend. But yeah, SJ, tell us about your week. Tell us about your round 7 on NBL1 East. Were you commentating or were you a spectator this weekend?
Nah, so I was doing the Bankstown Bruins covering against the Hills Hornets. I was doing the commentary, but everyone was just talking about that Sydney Comets and Sharks game. So, Lockie, how was the atmosphere, man? Tell us a bit about the atmosphere, because that place was rocking.
It was rocking. It's sometimes hard to feel it when you've got the noise cancelling headphones on, but it was one of those nights where it was the atmosphere around the stadium was big, but it all felt centered on the court. Like the players brought more energy than the crowd even. Like that first game with Kawat, it was big, but it was the crowd delivering all the energy. This game, it was the players. It was Bawali just absolutely taking off like a stabbed rat at every opportunity he could to get up court. It was waiting to see what Dave O'Hickey would do next. It was Kawat just being Kawat. It was just, a game with 7 guys with NBL experience. And like I said on the call, it's just the guys. I thought I'm not surprised he didn't try to take over. I thought he might, but when you're such a player like Davo, you recognize that, it's Bawali's team at the moment. And he facilitated Bawali, and Bawali just had himself an absolute night. And it was just epic.
Yeah, because Dave O'Hickey, he can do it all, man. Like he can contribute to the game in different ways, and in a way that is Bawali's team. And bro, him and Noi went toe to toe all game, and it was great to watch. And that's what the NBL1 East kind of, for me, is all about this season. It's about all these younger players getting to play with these big names, and they're just loving it. They're kind of taking the bull by the horns and they're embracing it. So even in the women's competition, you got those 2 Norths and Falcons kind of going undefeated. So yeah, the NBL1 East is it's the place to be.
Certainly is the place to be. I think especially now like even with Hickey's late but very welcome arrival to back to NBL1 East, surely by now everyone else in the country has to have eyes on the East. Because if we're attracting people like Noi, Bawali, Hickey, and that's just the men's competition of caliber, aside from the high caliber of the female competition in the East, surely people got to start taking us a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, you also forget like Jason Kadee, Jalen Galloway. But for me, it's also the young players like at Bankstown Bruins, you got Charlie Macbeth. Like he's learning from all these young guys. I remember speaking to Lachlan Hutchison also. He's like, man, these youth league players like Bailey McArthur, like they're itching at to play against all these big names. And you'd kind of see it yourself, Lockie. What's the quality like around the league, even from like the youth leaguers, the improvement from last season?
I mean, you summed it up perfectly, saying that like these young guys want to play against these big names. Like Harrison Rayner went up against, like he didn't play youth league. Usually he would be our starting point guard for youth league. He didn't play youth league on Saturday because he had the task of taking on Bawali every time he was on court, and a bit of Davo. You know, he was tasked with, and he gave a pretty good account of himself while he was out there. The guys, he's come up from Melbourne, taken a flyer on playing for Sutherland. And yeah, some of these young guys that are getting proper NBL1 experience, they're just going like, just taking off. The trajectory that just playing against these players, because it's not just what happens in the game, it's you go away, during the week and go, okay, this is what I got to do, or in the next offseason, okay, this is what I did against Bawali or against Blanchfield or against Kadee, against Galloway, whoever it is, or against Munger or whoever else, and go, okay, this is what I couldn't do against these players. This is what I got to work on if I want to get to that level.
Yeah, well, very good. And we've got a little bit of a run sheet here just to cover the first half of NBL1 East so far. So I'll go to you first, SJ. Give us a quick, I mean, you touched a bit of a summary of the men's competition. Give us a quick summary of the women's competition based on what you've seen so far.
Look, because I love watching the Bankstown Bruins. Like even I saw Lockie against the Sharks. Like if the girls are kind of even playing in Sydney, I try to rock up early to watch their games. Seeing their growth. With the competition, you got, like I was saying on the call last game with the women's comp, it's top heavy. So you got about 6 teams who is going to be there. But then the last 2 spots, they're open for everyone. Like I'm looking at the Bankstown Bruins. I'm like, hey, if you guys can stack up just a few wins in a row, you could kind of be in the mix. And then you got Hornsby. Jessie May Hawes, my favorite player to watch. Because she racks up all the stats, but I'm a big steals man. Like anytime I look at the box score, you look at the steals, and then I actually watched her that game against Bankstown, and she got 10 steals, and then I was just like blown away because that just means you're understanding, you're reading the game, and she does it, and she's quick as too, man, like really quick. And that was the first time I actually showed my daughter. I'm like, my daughter's won. I'm like, this is how you got to play. Like this has got to be you, sort of thing. So yeah, and also the men's side from Hornsby, they're actually getting a few wins, and they've been competitive all season. And honestly, I got Hornsby as one of the best crowds when that place is rocking. I don't know if it's the brick wall or something like that, but the noise just bounces back. So shout out to Hornsby because they all show up. But yeah, for the women's squad, like who the top 6 is going to be, but the rest they can all still it's a dogfight. And the talent's there. Like you got Canberra, who's also struggling. You had Crusaders. I know you were big on the Crusaders at the start of the season.
Oh yeah, I kind of feel obligated to be big on the Crusaders, to be fair, being my home club. But yeah, I know that caliber of roster that they've got. They've got literally an ex-Olympian in their squad, and they've got Jazz Forcadilla's player being a WNBL squad member. Muffy Loaders played WNBL. Herrick Domkins WNBL. So that's what I was like. They've got a lot of experience and high IQ. Yeah. But yeah, just can't put it together. And very low on numbers and injuries. Yeah.
So, because you got the Sharks too, Lockie. The Sharks, like you commentate their games with the women's squad. They're on 1 win.
Yeah. Yeah, they are on 1 win, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's a talented squad.
Yeah, they just can't get out of their own way. Nothing feels quite as connected as it should be, which is weird because you can say, oh, we don't have Lauren Nicholson, but we didn't have Lauren Nicholson for the entire year last year. We had pretty much the same squad except for Taya Webb. who's back at Launceston. So yeah, you're right. This team should have been putting up more wins than they have. I guess this week against Hornsby will, playing a team that's 3-5, but has got a player like Jesse May Hall there, and Kira Hudson, and they've got good pieces around them as well. They got the import Ayana Bay. That'll really show where they're at. Are they 1-8 because they've had to face some really good teams, or are they 1-8 because they're are they if they can't beat teams of this caliber of get over someone like Hornsby, that's a problem. I mean, they couldn't get over Illawarra on Tsubasa Nisbet's first game, and I thought Illawarra were going to jump up, but they haven't been able to get wins either, which is kind of interesting. But I guess it just shows. I mean, Illawarra v Hills next week. That could be interesting for both teams.
Tipping point, kind of a bit of a tipping point game for both of them. Yeah. And now also, SJ, biggest highlights of the NBL1 East so far. What comes to mind?
Oh shit, there's a lot. Honestly, I'm going to start off with just all the big name signings. I don't know about you guys, but you just kept rolling in. You're like, all right, it's going to stop suddenly. You got Jason Kadia, and then you got Grady. The next one came up, and you're like, oh shit, everyone's coming. But tips off to Quite Noi. He was pretty much the biggest signing. Because I do the Sydney Kings podcast for the Basketball Fix, and Quite Noi was always one of my guests. He was always down to talk. And then once I knew he was coming to the East, and he told me the reasons why he was staying in the East, I was like, man, that's going to be great for Sydney basketball. So that was one of my highlights. And then you just got the plays, man, Dalen Richnall's dunk. You got Jalen Galloway's dunk, all these guys playing into league, but also just the quality every game. I remember last year, sometimes you were looking for matches of the round and you were kind of yeah. But this week there's 7 or 8 of them and you're like, oh, which one do I pick? Every game's quality. So that's definitely another highlight. But mine is the arrival of Boali Bales. I'm coming back to the Comets. That team last season was the real deal. When Boali went on that run last season, man, that Sydney Comets team was dangerous, and every team in the finals wanted to avoid them. And then this season, it kind of feels like last year's crew up against the new crew, because you got the Sharks, the Hawks, and the Bruins, and then you had the Comets, Gunners, and Maitland kind of running it back with the guys that had playing last season. So it kind of feels like a little bit of us and them sort of thing at the same time. So I'm loving that, because it's just the quality of the league at the moment, that every game, and with the men's side especially, the top 8 that is right now, that you could pretty much lock it in that's probably going to be the top 8 to finish the season, excluding a few teams that might make a run. But man, they're going to be pushing for that top 4 spot. Home finals are going to come in handy, because you don't want to travel to Canberra and do all those places. I was talking to a few of the Bankstown guys, and they were like, man, that travel to Canberra is tough. So you just got to be driving before a finals game. So yeah, just the quality of the men's season has been my highlight so far.
Yeah, what about you, Lockie?
I think SJ made a good point about Boali coming back. In Comets are starting from a higher point this season when they get Boali back. Last year, they were, are they going to make finals? Are they not? Kind of thing. This year, they're already entrenched in the top 8, even before they get Boali. And now they got Davo for a few weeks to shore things up as well. So it's only up for them. My highlights so far this season. Oh, geez. But I'll go. I know everyone wants to talk about the big names, but Gotch Malawal making his debut on the weekend. That was so good. He is. I've been waiting. I've been coming to all the Comets games at Comets. This Gotch, is he playing? What's going on? So that was definitely a highlight on the men's side. But honestly, most of the highlights came on the men's side in preseason with all the net signing announcements, and then just how well they've all put up. Every one of them has performed as we've hoped they would.
Sorry, can I ask a question too? That game, because the game up against the Comets and Sharks, that was your 100th game, yeah? Have you ever been excited for a game before a call? Ever excited like that, or was that something different for yourself? Being your 100th game and that sort of scenario, the players.
I've been more excited for other games. When I went to Nationals and did the first main court game between Canberra and Frankston,
Oh, yeah, that game was good.
Yeah, but even before that, calling it with Matt Hickey and just like, that was probably the game I was most excited for. But when it hit me was when Sutherland put up the big sign that said "Congratulations, Lockie France." I was like, okay, now it's real. Yeah. So there's been other games I've been excited. So that was when it hit me. Was when they started actually talking about it, the sign up.
Because that's big, man. 100 games is big, bro. So respect.
I'm sure, surely other people. The 2 feet in the paint boys must be getting up around 100. Where's your spreadsheet, boys? You got to have a spreadsheet.
Those 2 feet in the paint boys will rack it up this season, bro. They're doing 3 teams, bro. Respect.
Yeah.
They're going to do 100 games in the season, let alone in their career.
But
yeah, I don't know how they do it.
On the women's side, you can't. I think the biggest highlight is to come, and it'll be that North Newcastle game in a couple of weeks' time. I think highlight for me is the re-emergence of Maitland. Every other team up the top is always there. Maitland finished 6th in 2023, went 5-15 last year, and now they've managed to retool. They got a second import again. They got Mila Woskovic back. They got Alexis Plater down from Coffs Harbour, and she is driving from Coffs Harbour every week because she's still in year 12. And I think just having another team around the place, and also like Inner West as well, finally, putting it together a little bit, just more teams in the mix. Because I think last year we sort of looked at it and we were like, all right, there's probably 10 teams that can make finals. This year, it's only going to take, even for what if Lauren Nicholson makes a miracle return? What if Leilani Mitchell, Michaela Domkins put it together for Central Coast? The new signing for Bankstown.
She's nice.
She's real nice. There's not a team out there that, even if they don't make finals, can't have a significant say in what happens on the women's side, and probably in the men's side as well. The men's side, it's been happening a little bit more over the years, but in the women's side, it's far more competitive. And like you said, it's great to not have to look at a roster and go, fixture and go, which game do I really want to go to? It's I want to go to every game. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just want to make a point on one thing that Lockie said. You were talking about the whole Sydney Comets when they sort of started, like this season compared to last season when Bawali came. And for me, I remember talking to Cho after round 1. I was like, boy, if you boys can kind of hold on to a plus 500, just collect all these wins up against the Falcons. I think they'd be Panthers, whoever they won. But then you saw the growth of Mundine, Cho, Vili, Aubrey kind of taking up a bigger role offensively. And then Bawali came in, and then it was just game over because their defense is probably the best defense in the comp right now. But I got to ask you, this is the thing that I got to ask you, man, because you do Comets and Comets and the Sharks. If that was to play in the finals, man, who you locking in? Who would you be backing?
Who am I supporting, or who do I think would win?
Who do you think would win?
Well,
hey, honestly, they'll face again in the semis. In the semis or grand final, that'll be another finals matchup.
I reckon also, Dave will be over at Summer League by then. So he'll be gone. I'm going Sharks. I'm going Sharks in a final. No Davo. Sharks get it.
Yeah, I think
they play again in the regular season first, don't they?
Oh, do they play again?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
In about 4
I'll
weeks
check the schedule. I'll go with the schedules by one week at a time. That's all I check.
I think I only look at weeks ahead as well when we have to refer to it to provide more context of teams or games we're reviewing or something like that. Otherwise, I'm also one at a time.
So, what's also been your highlight of the season so far?
I would say similar to what both of you have said. Certainly, the big signings, and especially a lot of the big signings that have originally come from East, even if they were juniors coming back to East. I've really liked that. I've really liked how many teams have been able to hold on to their core group and then modify or enhance them just a little bit, because I think having that sustainability in our clubs is really important. I really love seeing young talent like Ruby Perkins and Jessie May Hall just go off at this level. Like earlier in the episode, we spoke about the under 19 World Cup teams that are going away in June, July, and to think that Perkins, Fagan, Jessie May's not going, but Perkins and Fagan, dominating NBL1 East as teenagers, and now they're still going to the World Cup. Like that's pretty cool to watch. Pretty cool to watch in your own backyard. But also just the general caliber of players that we have here. Like I said, we've got Leilani Mitchell as a former Olympian. We've still got a lot of current and former NBL, WNBL talent. And I just love overall how NBL1 East just keeps going strengths to strengths. And I think that, testament to those high caliber players who have returned and keep returning, and hopefully they'll be able to encourage others to come in future seasons. So pretty general highlights. But I think just the general growth of the league is just really nice to see. But what about, tell me, SJ, some of your biggest surprises so far in this season, whether they be good or bad?
I'd say the drop off of the Inner West Bulls. That's kind of caught me off because that's a talented squad. And like I remember there was a game against Hills. That was a very emotional game. I think Zach Hudson's first game back against his old club. And then the boys just kind of they lost a bit of the togetherness. And then from then on, after that game, they've kind of just fallen off. But also the competitiveness just of the league, like you don't know who's actually gonna win. Like you got Hornsby and the Bandits just collecting wins. And how about the Bandits, man? They've had a tough run. Like they had Jasper Rentoy, and then he kind of didn't perform. And then you got Matty Gray, who's an ex-Mustang champion, just dropped 35. And if Bandits are to get a few dubs, man, they're going to need Matty Gray and Freeman to step up. So they've been two surprises for me, the Bandits and the Bulls. But yeah, other than that, the league is just it's just amazing at the moment. So even when you think about Penrith Panthers, they just got a one. Like the bottom three in the NBL1 East all collected dubs last week. So it's there's no real surprises. Like every team's competitive. But yeah, it was just those drop-offs of the Inner West Bulls will probably be my biggest surprise so far from what I've seen. Because I saw that game against the Bruins, man. They couldn't miss.
Yeah, I totally agree. What do you think, Lockie? What are some of your biggest surprises?
And those were especially the Bulls. Not just the drop off since their start, because they were 3-1 and now they're 3-6. And obviously, I didn't think the Sharks women would be 1-8 at this stage. I think they're better than that. I don't want to make it sound negative, but I think the ones that are most surprising are probably the teams that are down from where we would expect them to be. If you look at some of the teams that have been on the improve, like Inner West Women, they went out and got Talia Tupaya and Christina Moore, and three imports taking advantage of the Asia Oceania player rule kind of thing. So probably not as surprising some of these teams coming up, but definitely Inner West men.
Because that's one thing that I want to ask you guys too. Like, if you're looking at the men's top 8, who do you reckon can sort of shake it up, like from the bottom 8 clubs? Like, who do you reckon is the best chance at making the 8?
I would say, I want to say North when they're at full strength. Because
it's hard. Like when you look at that top 8, it's hard to break into it because that's a tough top 8, man. Like that's tough.
It is a tough top 8. And like Bankstown are there, gatekeeping 8th spot, and they've only played a couple of games with Galloway. So it's probably, I know Bankstown are 8th, but they're not I would have them probably going on a run now.
I'm going to be honest with you, because I'll do the Bankstown Bruins game, and that men's squad is literally like just, I don't know, like a little team chemistry away from being a top 4 easy team. They got the talent, they just got to find the consistency, and they got like all these new faces coming in, like also Jalen Galloway, but then they got Dominic Keys coming in, Andre Wolford, Hayden Blankley kind of still finding their role, like with a talented squad. Once they all figure that out and Charlie Macbeth comes back from his America trip at the moment, like that Bankstown Bruins squad is going to be tough. Because you also Gun Majak, he's going to be the backup big. So, yeah, that's a strong top 7.
So when we talked about Gun Majak in our first game of the season that we reviewed.
Yeah, didn't he open the game with 2 blocks or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he certainly left an impression on us.
Yeah.
I think the plus side of Bankstown men's squad is that they have a lot of squad members, so they can account for people, going away on trips to America, injuries, etc. But then the downside of having a big squad and a relatively new squad is how do you formulate that chemistry so quickly and successfully? I think it's way too many combinations to play with.
Nah, they got Jason Kadee there. He'll figure it out. Jason Kadee will figure it out.
That is probably the best thing is that, like, watching Kadee, if he needs to facilitate, that's what he'll do. If he needs to score, that's what he'll do. He knows. Yeah, I mean, what you expect from a guy with as many NBL games and international experience under his belt as he has. He's gonna do the right thing every time, especially playing for his junior club. Like he's got an extra reason for this to all work for him.
Yeah, he's the anchor, and I wonder if without him it perhaps wouldn't work as well as it has been without such an anchor in a sense of the position he plays, hometown hero, and that wealth of experience where he can just be more of a leadership role and fill the gaps and let everyone else play their role to their biggest potential. But yeah, so I think I'm really rooting for them because they just seem like you can tell by the way that they play as well. They all seem very committed to their game plan and to each other. And that's really hard to sometimes orchestrate as well when you get to semi-professional league, because sometimes egos and stuff start to play into it, but they all seem like they want to genuinely play their best and for each other. So that's why we really root for them.
And honestly, they do that for half a game right now. They just got to do it for the full 40 minutes, and then you'll start seeing them kind of deliver, because they had a great win up against Hills, but they went down to COE, and COE is tough, man. Like that COE squad. I remember watching them that first game up against Bankstown Bruins in round 1, and man, it was scary because they were like 12 deep, and everyone literally played 20 minutes. Like it was freaky to watch, and I was like, and you saw Furphy last game. I think he played 31 minutes, which is probably like he averages 23 minutes a game, and then he got 34 points. And I'm just like, that's what the Canberra Gunners, the COE's all about, because they all play defense like Ladgley, Kulabale. When I first saw him, I was like, holy shit, like this guy knows how to play defense and the plays they run and things like that. So for me, COE, they're 9-1, and I know they're going to lose a few players and all that, but I don't know who's going to stick around, but whoever sticks around is going to know the system. So they'll figure it out and they'll be competitive. So COE's also been a big surprise for me.
Yeah, the tricky thing with COE as well is that the way that their scholarships and program runs doesn't coincide always with the season. So some athletes that have been there like 2-3 years will graduate before the season ends, and then the new graduates may come in. But then also this year we've got the under-19s World Cup. So both COE squads are probably going to lose some main players. I'm not too sure if I have to go back and look at the draw, but perhaps they've got those weeks off in the draw.
They do. I think the COE only play on 10 of the 15 rounds, and they do that sneaky game against Canberra that they do the Friday before
the Thursday
long
games.
Weekend in June. Yeah, the Thursday games just before the long weekend, just to kind of sneak it in at the end of the round. So they'll probably have all those rounds off.
And they built up a healthy lead. Like they got a 3-game lead at the moment, so 9-1, they'll take that.
Yeah, I mean 9-1. What? 3 more wins and you're pretty much guaranteed playoffs. But Yeah, I mean, it's always tough for them to go overseas and come back and come straight back into a NBL1 comp. And we saw last year the women's team had to pull out of finals.
And he's also my coach of the year, so I'm backing him in. Let's get
it. Robbie.
Yeah, I'm telling you, when I watched them that round one, I was like, holy crap, like that's a well-coached team. Like they were running plays, and I was talking to Ladgley after the post-game interview, and he was saying, man, like they're getting us to run technical like offense and defense. And then I always try to get those boys on the show, and they're like, no, we got training. So they're training every single day. So like hats off to them, man. Hopefully we see one or two of them in the NBA too.
Oh, yeah. I think there's a high chance that we're going to see them, if not in the NBA, certainly at an Olympics or something one day, given that Furphy already suited up for the Boomers last week, that Trans-Tasman throwdown. Yeah. So that's the cool thing about having COE in the East is that we get to see them while they're young and super talented, and you can see the potential for them, and then you get to watch their career grow as far as it can go. It's really, really exciting. It's a weird proud mum moment when you don't even know the players like as people. But I would agree. Surprises for me would be the Sutherland Sharks women on paper easily should be a top 8 team. They just can't get the pieces together. And perhaps Sutherland Sharks women and Crusaders women are examples of like, regardless of who you've got on paper, you still have to make those pieces work cohesively to get wins. I think on the men's side, I'm kind of surprised that North are sitting at 11th. I would have expected them to be a little bit higher. But I think and I am surprised at Albury men as well, because when we did our preview episodes, there were a lot of players that were new to that roster. And when we did our kind of scouting based on clips, what you see online, and, you know, always those clips you see online can't be taken as gospel because people only want to add the best bits sometimes. They looked like a really exciting team, young, quick, looked like they'd have some great chemistry, but yeah, just haven't been able to put it together either. So that's probably some big surprises for me as well. There's probably even more surprises to come, though, in the second half. I actually want to say a really good surprise is that Hornsby program as a whole. Coming into NBL1 East, low on numbers, low on resources and players, really making the grind to be competitive and getting better and better every game, every season. But this season, you cannot take them for granted at all, the men's or women's side, despite the men's record being 2-6 and the women's record being 3-5. You cannot take either team for granted because they're very competitive. But what I like as well, there just seems to be a really great culture around both of those programs now. So a lot of changes in a short period of time, but it looks like they've got a good formula now. So that's been a big green flag and a big green tick for me for the
team in green.
The team in green, yeah.
Yeah, and they recruited well with the men's side. They recruited really well. Mohammed Kona, Akil Douglas, they're both two talented players. And yeah, that Hornsby crowd deserves a shout out. They bring the noise. So yeah, hats off to them. And it's great to see them doing well because I tipped Hornsby last week on my match of the week. And someone actually DM'd me and said, but I've never seen anyone pick Hornsby Spiders. And I was like, I'll back them in.
I'll be honest, like when NBL, in the inaugural season of NBL1 East, when Hornsby were really struggling, there were definitely games where you're like, oh, it's hard to pick a game of the week. Oh, this game's going to be a blowout. And often it would be Hornsby. So they kind of unfairly got that early reputation of being like, oh, they're not going to be the team that's going to win. 3 years later, they've turned that around so quickly. They easily could have just given up and pulled out of the NBL1 East altogether. But like they persisted and started to create something really great to now that people are backing them to win. But yeah, and I think last of all, you touched on it before, SJ, about predictions. I was going to ask both of you if, now that we're at the halfway point, if you feel like you would want to change your award prediction. So just to remind you, SJ, you picked the Gunners for the men's champions, Todd Blanchfield for MVP, Christian Little for Defensive Player of the Year, and Robbie McKinlay, as you mentioned, as Coach of the Year. Women's North Bears, MVP Jessie May Hall, Jada Rice, Defensive Player of the Year, and Nathan Kerwin from Manly Warringah Seagulls for the Female Coach of the Year. Now that we've had basically half the season, is there any that you would potentially change, or you're backing yourself?
We'll go with the women's side first. I'll back Norths. I love what that squad's about. So I'll stick with Norths. MVP Jessie May Hall. Hell yeah, I'll stick with that. As I said, even if she doesn't get it, I'm gonna enjoy watching her play. I love watching her highlights. As I said, like my daughter watches it with me now, so she can learn a few things. So I'll stick with that. Defensive Player of the Year, was that next?
Yeah, Defensive Player of the Year. You've got
Jada Rice.
Rice.
Yeah. I had Davida Dale at the start, but then she didn't sort of rock up. He wasn't coming, so I was like, you know what, Jada Rice. She's leading the league in blocks, and if she stays out of foul trouble, she can easily average over 3 blocks a game. So I'll stick with Jada Rice. And the Manly head coach, Manly, they can push. Like I remember last year, the Bandits were 20-0, and they still didn't get the grand final ring. So Manly's one of those teams that can cause that upset. And that Manly squad was going toe-to-toe with the Bandits last season. I remember watching a game last year, Manly up against Bandits, and man, I think the Michaela Pivic just hit like a game winner, 3, and I was very impressed with Manly. And then they added Taylor Rorts to their team now, who's killing it. So yeah, I'll stick with Coach of the Year because that Manly team will probably finish sort of 3rd, 4th, and that'll be a great season for them. It's just about can they get that done in the finals. So I'll stick with all of them for the women's side.
Awesome. And what about the men's side? Any changes? You're gonna stick with them? It's changed so much. So like, just to remind everyone, we asked everyone to put in their predictions after the first 3 rounds in the Easter break, and we gave it at least 3 rounds to give the league an opportunity to hurry up and announce all their rosters, because we're not very good at that. The league and the competition's not very good at that. Not the competition as in the people that run NBL1, just clubs are not very good at announcing their rosters on time. But there's been so many changes again.
Yeah, look, there has been changes, but look, I'm going to stick with my pick in a way of, remember how I told you guys before, it was kind of like last year's crew up against this year's crew, which is Illawarra, the Bruins, and the Sharks. So either the Gunners, Mustangs, or Comets. I'm going one of them 3 because I'm an underdog guy. So I'm a Detroit Piston. I'm an East, so we stay away from the West Coast, like all that sort of thing. So if I was going to change it, I'd go to the Comets. But yeah, either Gunners or Comets. That'll be my prediction. MVP, yes, I would like to change that.
Yeah, who you got instead of you subbing out Todd Blanchfield, and who you got putting in?
Look, I actually messaged you and I said, look, I want to put William Mayfield as my MVP. But you missed it and you left Todd Blanchfield. And I was like, all right, you know what? Todd Blanchfield might win it.
You know what? There could also be a chance that I just didn't write the right thing as well. So let the record show from now on that SJ did pick Will Mayfield for MVP at the start of the season. We can back you on that.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Will Mayfield or Bawali Bowles, staying with the East Coast sort of concept. I'm one of them 2. For my Defensive Player of the Year, Christian Little, lock it in. I love watching him defend. He literally, like, I know Mustangs are 5-4, but every single game, Christian Little kind of gives 100% on both ends. And he always gets about like 5 or 6 steals a game sometimes. So, and I remember the game against Falcons, he literally willed a comeback just based on his defense. So I love what Christian Little's doing. So I'll lock that in. And Coach of the Year, hands, just give it to him now, straight out.
So the other kind of thing Lockie and I talk about often, and even with some of our peers, you know, in the DMs about Coach of the Year, is that I think it is voted by the other coaches, and I think the captains of the teams, perhaps, or at least definitely the other coaches. And sometimes coaches like Robbie McKinlay and even Sammy Mack last year won't get as many votes because other coaches feel like, yeah, well, you had the loaded roster, so you should be winning that many games without taking into consideration how hard it is to recruit and get the chemistry right and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but with the quality of the NBL1 East this season, they might give him some votes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So Lockie, let me remind you of your predictions. You also had the Gunners as the men's champions. You also had Will Mayfield as MVP and Christian Little as Defensive Player of the Year. But you had Sean Roger from Sutherland Sharks as Coach of the Year. And for women, you tipped the Newcastle Falcons, Munga for MVP, Jessie May Hall for Defensive Player of the Year, and Will Granger from the Stangers as the Coach of the Year. Any changes?
Absolutely none, because I'd look so stupid if I changed it and one of them won it. No, I mean,
true.
The only one I'd really consider changing at this stage is the Gunners, because I mean COE are just absolutely streaking ahead at the moment, but we all know how hard it is to be COE and play a full season, plus do all those rep camps and junior nationals and World Cups this year, and then back up for finals. So, no, I got the Gunners can turn it around. And, I mean, obviously, it'd be easy for me to go, no, Sharkies are flying. So, although we lost 2 games on the weekend. But I'm going to stick with everything. Yeah. My boy Sean, Coach of the Year. I mean, we either got the Sutherland coach or the man from Sutherland, Robbie McKinlay, to win it.
So you're covered.
Yeah.
I love how you're knocking wood in between.
I reckon you should have just went the Sharks to win the whole thing. You know, you want to.
It's an emotional hedge. If Canberra win, I'm right. And if the Sharks win, I get to celebrate.
100%.
Very safe bet. I think I had the Hawks to win the men's competition with Blanchfield as MVP, Christian Little Defensive Player of the Year, and also Sean Roger as Coach of the Year. Also, a good example of a loaded roster, but it's about putting the pieces together in the right way to get some wins. And for women, I had Newcastle Falcons, Nicole Munga MVP, Jessie May Hall for Defensive Player of the Year, and Sammy Mack from Albury Wodonga Bandits as Coach of the Year, because while he didn't get it last year, going undefeated in the regular season, a lot of people are saying, well, you should be because of that loaded roster. This time around, he's got a completely different roster, recruited some absolute guns and seeing success again. And just the way he's able to create opportunities like that are really showcasing his players' strengths, particularly on the offensive end, I reckon is great and deserves a lot more credit.
So he went 20-0. He didn't get the Coach of the Year last year. That's stiff.
Correct. Yeah. So that's my picks. Yeah, I don't think I would change anything either. I mean, those Illawarra Hawks men, though, make me really nervous. Come on, guys, get it together.
Look, honestly, now when it comes to the whole men's competition, I don't think you have to worry about placing so much. Like whoever's in the top 8, they can all win it from whether they're coming 5th or 6th. So for them right now, it's just kind of like feeling each other out, kind of like it's like a sparring match at the moment. Just for that's why the Comets win up against the Sharks was massive. For them, for the confidence that they could actually. And a shout out to Damien Clark. He came out with the coldest line ever, where he's like, the Sharks have a couple of kings, but the Comets have the aces. And I was like, bro, wow, that was cold. But that's the kind of mindset that you guys get from the whole regular season, where the regular season is going to mean a lot, but any team in the top 8 can actually win the title. In my eyes, you got Bankstown Bruins, with their talent, man, they can win it from 8th if they finish in 8th. So. Yeah, it's going to be a great season, man. I can't wait for it.
2 years ago, the men's grand final was 5th versus 7th.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah, I remember.
Right, which team? Who was that? Was that the Sharks one?
Maitland Sutherland was 5th versus 7th.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big old tie for fifth. There was a 4-way tie for fifth spot.
Yeah.
Went to the 4-way split where I think Sutherland played a bunch of the teams only once and got wins against most of them.
Yeah, it was. I remember that as well because that was the season where, Maitland made the inaugural final against Gunners. Then the next season they saw themselves, at the bottom of that top 8 and had to play Inner West Bulls in the elimination final. And Inner West Bulls had CB, Blake Morrow, like rolling because they placed second and then they lost. And then Sutherland then played Norths away in their elimination final and just demolished Norths. And then it was like, it's totally different come finals time. Totally different. Yeah, they really got it together and peaked at the perfect time, those two teams, and made for a very entertaining grand final.
And I know this is very, very, very selfish of me, but I wish that William Cranston Lown was actually still in the East with like Manjor, Christian Little against like the caliber of players that's in the East right now. I feel like he would have loved it and he would have carved up too. So that's one thing that I always think about with the whole way the competition set up. Like if you still had William Cranston Lown, it would have been an interesting competition.
We all miss William Cranston Lown.
Yeah.
Who is leading NBL1 South in assists, by the way?
Man, it was crazy because I remember talking to him at one of my shows and I was like, what is it that you need to do differently in your game?
Sorry.
To kind of like...
Sorry, no, he's not. He's leading his team in assists. But 5.71 assists per game, Will Cranston Lown down in
That's
South.
still really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone talks about his size, man, but he plays defense too, man. He's a pest on the defensive end. So I'm praying to God that he kind of gets the whole NBL kind of deal coming up because, that dude's a real talent, man, and deserves it. So,
Third in East for assists.
Yeah.
Third in South for assists, sorry, and like 0.5 behind the leader. So,
yeah, and it's all right to be selfish with that stuff, SJ, because we definitely would like to have him back as well.
Yeah.
Final question. I'll go to SJ. I'll go to you first again. What do you want more of in this second half of the season, or anything you're particularly looking forward to?
Just honestly nothing. Like, it's just being selfish now. Whatever's happening right now is just going to get even better. And honestly, that's kind of like the reason why I created Love of the Game, was because it was more kind of like to build the storyline of the whole regular season, not just everyone paying attention to the NBL1 East when it came to the finals. Because I feel like that was like what a few people kind of like, especially the neutrals. I'm talking about the neutrals, not really paying attention to it came finals time. So I was like all these players, like even the imports, like they come sacrifice a lot with their families to kind of give this a go. And I was like, you know what can I do to kind of do that? So it's just tell their stories, talk about the high level of competition. And it kind of all came to fruition when the Sharks versus the Comets. Because when Quat Noy signed up to play in the NBL1 East, that's literally what it was all about. Getting everyone together, just enjoying. Because basketball, you need that bit of tension. Like you need that sort of like that competitive. And as I said, from 1 to 16, every game is going to be competitive. So I'm not going to be selfish, and exactly what's going on should stay the same. And as semis hits, the intensity is going to hit up and the game's just going to elevate even further. So can't wait for it.
And Lockie?
I want more teams selling personalized jerseys. I need another Manly jersey. I need.
Do you though?
I only have one.
We've got a whole collection.
Fair.
I only have one. I got 3 Bankstown jerseys and 1 Manly jersey.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, that's out of whack. It's out of balance.
Yeah.
Yes. I'd also like to see some more jerseys sold, just in general. Like especially if someone has a pink round jersey, a mental health round jersey, an Indigenous round jersey. I've still got mine from Crusaders before, when it was still Waratah. And they're some of my favorite jerseys. I would love it if that was more of an option.
Actually, being less selfish, I would just like to see every club have their players' names on their game jersey.
Inner West Bulls do that, man, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
Sharkies do it. Some clubs do it. Some clubs don't. I know you can sell the sponsorship. Yes, so jerseys with names on them and name below the number. So the women's ponytails don't cover the names.
Yeah,
I love that one. That's a good call.
Yeah. But yeah, it's certainly it's certainly shaping up to be a very, very exciting season. Especially the way that the men's ladder is already shaping out. It's going to be a very tight race. There won't be any boring bits at all this season, and we're also going to continue to see the North Bears women and the Newcastle Falcons women continue their undefeated streak, both 9-0. But one of them is going to lose that streak when they meet in 2 rounds' time. So rubbing my hands at that one.
Yeah, you both picked Falcons. I tipped North, so
yeah. It's going to be super, super close. I think like a good surprise actually for me with that North women's team is that a lot of their North juniors, they're not even technically North juniors, but a lot of the younger players who came to Norths and have worked their way up into getting more minutes by being in the program the last couple of years, they're just shining right now. Like Emma Donnelly returning from college and now playing in North, she's improved a lot in a short period of time, and I wasn't expecting her to have such a big impact on the league and on that team. So that's been a really, really nice surprise. It's going to be one of those games where I think it's going to be like bench versus bench. How deep are they going to go? How deep do each teams need to go? What are going to be the 1%ers that is going to get each team the win in that game? I'm very excited.
And so before we do, I actually want to give a shout out to JMO, JMO's page, who's doing some content for the women's game, because when I was doing the commentary, I was like, I want to like try to do something for the women's game also, but like I got a family, like I can't commit to that stuff. So I saw her doing some content for like a few kids sort of tournaments. And then I reached out to her, said, because she was studying sports sort of journalist also in her spare time at TAFE. I was like, look, if you want to cover the women's game, I'd appreciate it so much. And she's kind of taken it on board, and she's doing some great work promoting the women's game because the talent's there. Like I saw the Bandits, Katie Jones, Riley Lupfer doing her thing, Sniper. And it's just kind of like elevating the women's game, where for me personally, like I wouldn't pay attention to it. But now that you're actually seeing those things, it helps the whole brand of the NBL1 East from the men's and women's side. And lastly, before I do go and end the show, I want to say thank you, Lockie. The Sydney Comets actually like reached out for me to do one of the commentary games. Yeah. And then they said, Lockie kind of told, Lockie kind of reached out, told me like you'll be interested in doing it. So I wanted to say thank you for that, because I appreciate it, man, straight out, because being able to commentate games, I've actually enjoying it. And then especially like the quality of comments and COE. And then she said, Lockie kind of suggested. I was like, but I have to say thanks.
I got you, man. No, Kiara, messaged me and was like, we need a commentator. I know you're because I've got Sutherland home game this weekend. Who is there? And I'm like, well, if Bankstown are playing away, then SJ.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much, man. Yeah, because when she told me that, I was like, fuck. I was gonna say thank you. Then they said jump on the show, and I was like, I'll just say it to you on the show, man. So yeah, thank you.
All right. Any final thoughts, feelings, hot takes before we wrap up the show? What's been a very long show tonight. Oh, we need to do our good eggs.
Oh, we need to do our good eggs. We do.
SJ, do you want to stick around for our good eggs of the week? You don't have to if you don't want to, but you're welcome to.
What's the good egg of the week? Is that the play of the week?
People we like.
It's not necessary. Basically, we used to do All-Star 5, but now I noticed that the NBL1 socials have started doing MVP ranking, which is way too similar for my liking to All-Star 5. So we changed it up a bit. So we've now just doing basically a player of the week, but we call it a good egg of the week because East Got Game shortened is EGG. So,
I'll stick around.
So we give the good egg of the week, not necessarily to someone who has been like the most outstanding performer statistically. It can just be for any reason, really.
It can
be a team. Very vibes based. Can be a team, can be a club, can be an individual, just whatever we feel like, really.
Is that one from the men's, one from the women's, or just one in general?
Yeah. One from the men's, one from the women's. So, Squin, who's the men's good egg of the week?
Yeah, this week I will give an honourable mention to Jonah Pires from Penrith Panthers. He was considered. I also considered Glenn Morrison just because he was copping a lot of heat in that game against the Hawks, and he was able to not take the bait and stay pretty well focused, and I admired him for that. So that's also another honourable mention. But I got to give it to Preston Purifoy from Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. They played a doubleheader this weekend, and he performed consistently well in both games. And in both games, helped his team get big dubs. So they played Maitland and they played Sutherland. Against Maitland, Preston had 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Sea Eagles winning that game against Maitland 104-91, but they will play each other again in round 11, so an opportunity for the Stangers to get the split. And then backed up the next day against Sutherland Sharks, Manly Warringah winning that one 89-84, and Preston Purifoy again 22 points, 3 rebounds, 3 steals. And the clincher is that was one and done for Manly versus Sutherland. They don't play each other again this season unless they perhaps will meet in the finals. So 2 big wins for Manly this weekend. They're now up to 7th with a win-loss record of 5-4. And in the next couple of rounds, they play Crusaders, Hills, and Illawarra Hawks. So 2 of those 3 are they're all definitely gettable. So here's my good egg of the week.
And
what about you, Locke?
Well, on the women's side, it's pretty close to Preston Purifoy. It is Taylor Wirtz from the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. So plenty to celebrate in the household. Taylor had 28 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and hit 8 of 16 from beyond the arc in a 91-64 win over Maitland. And then followed it up the next day against Sutherland with 27 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks, and shot 7 of 13 from beyond the arc. So hitting a better than 50% across the weekend on 29 attempts. They won those games 91-64 over Maitland and 96-62 over the Sharks, sending Manly to 7-2. Equal 4th with Albury Wodonga, but Albury Wodonga had the split. But I think it's fairly safe to say that they'll have the split on Maitland after winning the first game by 27. So Preston and Taylor can't keep them apart.
We love a successful couple.
Sorry, can I have one good egg? Can I say one good egg?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Honorary good egg.
Yeah, shout out Jacob Sinkarak, 100 games for the Bandits. And they got the dub, the much-needed dub too. And he's flying up the rankings in the assist. I saw him at number 2, and I had to double check, is that right, sort of thing. So yeah, hats off and respect to Jacob Sinkarak for 100.
There you go. Hitting 100 games, it's in vogue this week.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, very good shout out. We missed that one in the headline. So very good shout out for Jacob SJ. Nice pick up there.
Yeah, because I love the Bandits crew. I love the Bandits crew. So I'll follow all their social medias and stuff like that. And yeah, they did a nice piece for him too, where they gave him a jersey, 100 jersey. And yeah, so I had to say it to him too. So yeah.
They do good things at Albury Wodonga, like the jersey presentation. You get some clubs who player reaches 50 games or 100 games and no one even knows, let alone recognizes it. So yeah, very good to see from Albury Wodonga, and they're always good on the socials as well.
Yeah, good professional running of that club. Yeah, always good on the socials and things like that. Great fan engagement, game day atmosphere, doing a lot of good things down on the border. But yeah, gentlemen, any final thoughts, feelings, hot takes before we officially wrap this episode?
No, I think we got all the hot takes out during the game review.
Yes, we did. I'm not prepared for the. I am prepared for the consequences, but I also don't think anyone's going to care what I say. So,
sorry, what was it?
It is what it is.
Let's get a double check. What did you say?
I'll tell you offline. All right. Thank you again, SJ, for joining us for a midway season review. But as we always like to say, Lockie,
don't sleep on the East.